Okay, the next topic we want to discuss today is bringing your whole self to work. There is so much confusion around this verbiage, this nomenclature. Folks do not know what it means. And when I say we hear this all the time, depending on from who, different feelings spill out about this term, but it's about bringing your whole self to work or bringing your authentic self to work. So what I decided to do was to look up, what does that mean from AI? Because I'm just curious, what is the definition that is being thrown out there to multiple people? And what it says is bringing your authentic self to work means showing up as your genuine self, including your unique talents, values, and perspectives, while maintaining professional boundaries. It encourages honesty, vulnerability, and genuine connection, which can increase trust, creativity, and engagement. But I think the key here is professional boundaries. What does that mean? Because depending on what generation you come from, and remember there's 5, as we know, in the workspace in place, that can look very differently.
Yeah, and I think the key to professional boundaries is defining that for your organization. And it's more than just, I've been in HR for so long that, when folks thought about professional, they were really thinking about what's the dress code? Can we have casual Fridays? Can you wear open-toed shoes? I'm really aging myself.
Yeah, I'm like,
But that's where they really focused on defining professionalism. And now what we're really seeing is the need to be explicit and to define for your organization what professionalism is going to look like. And it's back to that being willing to be explicit, explain things that maybe you didn't think you needed to explain, because you have a generation that is used to sharing everything. A lot more on social media with their friends, even with their parents. It's
true. You like to let me know my kids share a lot. You're like, are they really telling you this? They are. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about an employee I had, and you know them. And I got a call from someone else who said they showed up with their do-rag on and they were in the bed at a professional meeting. And I had to call them and say, friend, can we not do that? Yeah. Like, that's not how we're going to show up with a professional meeting. And I would prefer you not to show that up like that with me either, really, because you're out here with the T-shirt on. You might forget you're at work, right? Because we're working remotely so much right now, right? And like, you always hear me say, you don't want me to bring my full self to work.
Right.
You don't want me to show up in my bonnet with a bad attitude and having, and with coffee breath and not caring all the time. That's not how you want to bring your best professional self to work. And I think even if we switched that wording a bit, bring your authentic professional self to work, I don't know. People may not like that, but I think there's definitely some confusion in that.
Yeah. And it's going to really depend on your industry, on your book of business, the clients or the customer base that you have, and also being willing to test that. We also know that professionalism can be nomenclature for doing things in a certain way that may be antiquated, to use a term you use a lot. So for businesses to feel free to define that and understand they need to define that for their staff, but also to challenge themselves that the things that maybe they were comfortable with 10 years ago can be expanded.
Yeah. No, I think that's good, because you just hit on something that's another key thing we deal with. It's around professionalism, right? And we just had someone say to us, hey, I don't use that word anymore. We've had leaders say that to us. Well, we don't use it, but we know it's in the zeitgeist of an organization. Still, folks have a very linear or binary way of thinking of professionalism. So, as you like to point out, it used to be that kind of affable white guy that came out after World War II and was kind of like, work hard. I value certain things in my work, and that's part of my identity and how I show up in the world. And professionalism doesn't always translate that way for other communities and other groups of people. right? As a woman, the way I show up looks differently than as how a man shows up. And that needs to be accepted and just fine and welcomed, because I'm not a man and I'm not going to show up like a man. I'm not white. I'm not going to show up as a white woman, right? And so sometimes, and even my girlfriends that are Black women that are professionals, high executives, are like, I'm not going to show up like that. And a lot of them have been reprimanded for being a little bit different, for being a little bit more direct in their communication style. Or maybe they dress a little bit, they may want to put on a pair of leopard shoes, and folks are like, well, you're intimidating, or your communication's too direct. And so I want folks to still use professionalism in the way in which can be helpful if they define it.
Right.
And act like, because when that leader said to us, I don't use it anymore, I'm like, that's great, but people in your organization are.
Yeah.
And so we need to define what that looks like, and then we can form policies around that.
Yeah. And for that younger generation as well, for them to have a sense that, when you're at work sharing everything about your private life, about your personal life, about your views on any given topic, may be something that needs to not be done in an inauthentic way, but having a sense of time and place, because you really do want to have a work environment where folks from different backgrounds and perspectives can work through, can be able to accept and engage with each other, but also not spend so much time on the sphere that exists outside of work that it becomes a distraction, that it becomes a place of tension. And again, it comes back to setting that context, defining it, and then really working with your teams to be able to have a sense of what that is and what is the environment that you want to intentionally create so that your whole team can thrive.
Yeah.